You know, as we head into what is known as Championship Saturday next week, as well as into the final game, Army-Navy, the week after, yesterday, by the time you watch this, because it'll be Sunday, the last Sunday in November, basically, a lot happened if you're a huge college football fan, especially paying attention to the whole college football playoff scenario and how certain teams are going to get structured after it's all said and done this upcoming Saturday, Championship Saturday. But what's interesting about this is it seems that the teams you would expect in this scenario for the first time are not involved. Yeah, think about that. This is the first year, as far as we're concerned, unless there's some chicanery, some kind of chicanery that goes down behind the scenes, like payoffs and all that. This will be the first time that, as far as we know, like I said, unless some chicanery takes place, unless some chicanery happens, which hopefully it won't, this will be the first time that Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio, and Clemson will not be involved in the playoffs. They will not be involved. Yeah, 3 of those 4 will be involved in potentially New Year's Day 6 bowls. But those 4 that have dominated the CFP, picture for the past several years, a majority of the years anyway, will not be involved. Instead, we are looking projectedly at a year where it potentially could be, and this all depends on what happens, this Saturday, Championship Saturday, the 4th of December. It all depends on what happens there, but right now, projectedly, we are looking at Georgia, Oklahoma State in the Orange Bowl, and we're looking at Michigan and Cincinnati in the Cotton Bowl. And those are the bowl games projected, or the teams to be involved in those bowl games that are serving as playoffs this year to get to the national championship on the 10th of January. Those are the projections. Now, a lot could change in those projections. Mostly, it all involves the championship games they're involved in. Alabama could beat Georgia, and that would take Georgia out of the equation. Iowa could beat Michigan, and that would take Michigan out of the equation. Baylor could beat Oklahoma State, and that would take them out of the equation. And Houston could beat Cincinnati and take them out of the equation. And you cannot tell me that neither one of those teams, that the projected teams going into the playoffs, are facing on Championship Saturday. You can't tell me that Baylor, Houston, Iowa, and Alabama aren't eyeing, upset city on them. And we're not just talking upset like, oh, we didn't think they'd ever beat them, but here it is. No, we're talking upset like, yeah, we're going to deny you a chance to get in, or we're going to make it harder for you to get in. And that potentially is what you're looking at. Because if you think Alabama, as much as some people may not like them, is going to go down without a fight, you're wrong. Because they could change the whole landscape, if you will, just by beating Georgia. And not just beating them, Alabama has been known to step up to the plate, if you will. They've been known to step up to the plate. And when they're looked at as the underdog, in SEC championship games, what has normally happened? Alabama, most of the time, and as much as, like I said, a lot of us hate to admit it, will come out and trounce their opponent. And I'm not saying they're going to do that to Georgia, but history has shown that when Georgia and Alabama meet for a championship, whether it's the SEC or in recent years, the national, it's shown that Alabama comes out fighting and acts like the Alabama that people predict them, to be for the whole season. And Georgia has to keep their minds on that. They have to keep focused on the fact that Nick Saban is not going to want his team to go down fighting. He's going to want his team to come out fighting and basically do what they do best. So yeah, Championship Saturday, right now, these projections, they seem like a lock, but they could all change. They could all change, folks. And what would be interesting is how the ramifications would change the playoff scenario. How things could be, shook up, if I'm just checking something, shook up majorly, if you will. Because then, let's say all the projected playoff teams lose, guess what they do? Guess what the committee has to do? The committee has to go off the strength of schedule. And by looking at, and history has shown that by looking at something like Alabama's schedule and Ohio State's schedule and Notre Dame's schedule, and all that, and even Oklahoma's schedule, they could say that these guys had the tougher schedules and stronger schedules than those that were projected. And you know what they could say? They could say, yeah, you guys may have beat them, but they had the stronger schedule than you, so we're putting them in. Cincinnati might be the only survivor out of this. Might be the only survivor out of this. But that all depends on what happens on Saturday. Because again, you can't tell me that Baylor, Alabama, Houston, and Iowa aren't thinking spoil city, aren't thinking, let's ruin their dreams, let's turn their dreams into nightmares, because they are. And right now, the projections may seem like a lock and seem very likely, but Championship Saturday can screw up anybody's college playoff projections and all the bowl projections, period. Even the bowls that are underneath, not just the New Year's Day 6 bowls, not just those, but the bowl games that are underneath those, that are before those, and a little afterwards, depending on scheduling. Those bowl games could be affected. Even the lowest tier bowl games could be affected. Even the mid-tier bowl games and upper tier bowl games could all be affected after what happens on Saturday. So if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm a Georgia fan, I'm an Oklahoma State fan, and I'm a Cincinnati fan, then I pray to God above that what potentially and historically has been known to happen doesn't happen. That's what I do. Because again, Alabama, Baylor, Iowa, and Houston can screw up and turn everybody's dreams into nightmares. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. And I'm not saying these projections aren't going to be on the belt. But again, unless there is some behind-the-scenes chicanery, payoffs, if you will, even with the predictions of all the championship games this Saturday going in the right direction, being, 100% on the button, all I could say is that unless there's chicanery and payoffs behind the scenes to get certain teams in over the others that should be in, then all I could say is the only way legitimately this could get screwed up is if all the teams that the projected teams are facing beat them. And beat them convincingly or beat them in a way that make to where it's a close game and at the end a field goal or a last minute play wins the game. Or defensive play wins the game. That's it. That's it. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So if I'm a Michigan fan, if I'm a Michigan fan, Georgia fan, Oklahoma State fan, and Cincinnati fan, like I said, I pray to God above that the nightmare scenario that could happen doesn't happen. Because again, those projections that seem to be legitimate locks, if you will, and I do agree with it, could get screwed up and turned upside down after this Saturday, December 4th. But what do you guys think? Comment down below, live chat during the premiere, like the video, check me out at the Teespring store for all your holiday gifts if you're looking for something for a family member or friend in your life. Also check me out at BW Roses Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check me out at VENMO at BW Roses for content you can't get anywhere else, just in case, content copyright wise it can't be shown here on YouTube. Also, check me out at patreon.com/bwrosas and at Venmo if you want to help donate there. But again, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about, the projections and the possibility that they could stay legitimate or close to what they are? Or what are your thoughts on the fact that they could all get screwed up? Let me know down below, and I'm out.